Welcome to Scruffy City Aquatics live. Here, I'm going to click that. There we are. There we are. Hey, I'm Mitch.
I'm
and
Tanner.
I have Tanner with me. Go ahead. You introduce yourself.
I'm Tanner, as always.
There we go. There we go. Mitch and Tanner. It's always fun after you've had a few weeks of having people on something just to kind of get the regular show again and get a feel for that. I'm going to try to adjust this. I don't like where this is ending up. I always get cut off by my name here. I don't know if I need to be further away. I guess it's further away. We won't do that. I'm making everybody sick right now. Here, I'll go all the way.
Show.
There we go. I'll just hang out over here. Live streams. Fun times. You know, I did not pull up YouTube over here just in case I need it. It's the fun part. I know all the big streamers still do stuff like this at the beginning of their live streams where they're changing things and fixing things. So it's okay if we do it too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. There's my channel. There I am live. Probably going to put me in my ear for a moment until I can hit mute.
Oh, awesome. I did not realize you had hit 200 subscribers.
Yeah.
Well, 203 now, so a belated congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. It was exciting. Actually, I think it was when Kane was with us. We hit 200 that night. So speaking
awesome.
of which, Kane's in the chat. Hello, Kane.
We had Kane on last week, and we talked about the importance of clubs, which was awesome.
It was a fun conversation. Fun conversation. So for everyone on the replay crew, thank you for coming. Thank you for checking out this video of a past live stream. I appreciate you, and I'm glad you're here. I hope you enjoy the conversation. And if you do, you could subscribe to the channel, and I'd appreciate a like. And if you hit the bell, you get notified. So all that YouTube stuff's out of the way, and we're ready for people to start coming in so that we can start having the conversation. Man, we were talking before we got started. Allergies are a real thing right now. Absolutely a real thing. Whew. I've been feeling it today for sure. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was last night, yesterday evening, I started feeling it, and I woke up this morning, and sometimes you get into something, you can get a shower, get cleaned up, get rid of it, feel better. I felt a little better last night, not great. Woke up this morning, same thing. It's like, oh no. So I've had double showers today.
Those Tennessee allergies, you just can't beat them.
Is it the same in Middle Tennessee?
I would say yes.
Okay.
But also, I'm back and forth so much that I kind of think I just stay. I keep that East Tennessee pollen with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime I go during the summer or early spring, or not early spring, late spring, anytime I go somewhere else and my allergies like clear up for a little while, and it just, you don't, one day you're sitting on the beach and you're like, wow, I can breathe through my nose. And then you come back home and it's just like, poof.
Yep. Well,
hits you
the
right
eyes
in the face.
Are the worst when you just want to, they're itching so bad, but you can't itch them because it's going to make it so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we've got the Zen Ginger, Everything Aquatic, both in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Hope y'all are doing well.
Kane's changed clothes.
Oh,
he's changed clothes. He's no longer a Kane. He is now Keeper Kane. Welcome to the chat, Keeper Kane.
Kane has got some cool videos out. I think you just had that tarantula video out, didn't you? I haven't watched it yet. Not the biggest fan of tarantulas. A little controversial.
Staying away from that.
But I personally wouldn't keep them, but they're cool.
Yeah. Skull Aquatics in the house. Hello, Skull. I keep wanting to call you Scully. Can I call you Scully?
Scully sounds.
You can tell me no.
That it does sound good.
You can tell me no. I won't be offended if you tell me no, but I don't want to call you that and offend you.
Hope everybody's doing well this Tuesday.
Yeah, so we talked allergies. Yeah. Man, it's hard to believe it's only been a week since we live streamed. We didn't take last week off, did we?
No, we had Kane,
Yeah,
didn't we?
that was last week.
Yeah,
It feels like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Skull Aquatic says everyone does. It's fine. All right. Okay.
All right.
And maybe that's why I want to do it. Maybe I've heard other streamers do it. I totally could see that because, as you know, because I see you in a lot of them. I'm in a lot of streams, and I lurk a little. And then when I get time, sometimes during the day I'll get a little bit of time where I can communicate while I'm waiting on something to download, and it's always fun. And of course, the evening live streams I love them. Speaking of which, wow, that's a good segue. I did good on that. This Friday, I will be on Rico Stan and Chattanooga Ed's new live stream, their new show. I don't know which channel it will be on. I actually realized that. Oh, wait, I may have a message. Let me see. I realized that right before we went on, and I messaged Rico to see. I don't have it yet. So I don't know which channel it will be on, but it will either be on Rico Stan or Chattanooga Ed's channel. It's a new show. I believe Ed has named it Fish Fry.
That's good.
Or fried fish. It's Friday fish fry. I would call it Fish Fry. That's not my show to name. It's his show to name. I don't know which one he went with, but I'll be on there talking about this channel, talking about Scruffy City Aquatics, just talking. I don't really know. All they said was be willing to talk about anything. So it's kind of scary. We'll see what happens. If there's anything you'd like to know about Scruffy City Aquatics, you should come to that live stream because I'm going to get caught off guard by them asking me questions that are in the chat, I'm sure. Fried fish. Zen Ginger says it is fried fish. That makes sense.
I like it.
Yeah, that's fun. And then let's see, that's at 8 p.m., I believe. I believe that's 8 p.m. Yes, it is 8 p.m. And then on Saturday at 7 p.m., I will be on Scotty the Fish Freaks channel. And we're going to be talking about aquarium clubs. Scotty reached out to me and said, hey, he has a real passion for aquarium clubs, and he likes the stuff we talking about our local club and getting the club started. And so he'd just like to have me on and have a conversation about clubs. So I thought that sounded like a good time. So 7 o'clock on Saturday, Scotty the Fish Freaks channel. And then Friday at 8, either Rico Standard, Chattanooga Ed's. The Zen Ginger, I did not tell you ahead of time, so you don't have to put links in there. But, if you pull one at some point, you can put it in there. I'll point it out if it's in there. But I won't say anything if you don't. But I've already said it, so I guess I kind of did. The Zen Ginger is amazing, by the way. I see Zen Ginger in a lot of the streams that I visit, and she is always moderating. And that's why she is also moderating here. Also, Keeper Kane, I believe we made you a moderator in this one. And I added a few more last week. That's something about live streaming. I'm just going to put it out there on the live stream. I don't know how to ask about mods. Do I just message people and ask them? Or do I wait for them to come in the stream and say, hey, I thought I was a mod in here, which happened last week. So, yeah. Is that how we do it? I don't know. I don't want to say, hey, would you come to my stream and moderate things? The Zen Ginger says, I don't see either scheduled. I'm looking. As far as the live streams, they probably aren't. I just more so meant their channel, but you're right. I probably should wait and share the actual streams when they are scheduled. That'd make more sense. I'm good with that.
Definitely have to check those out. You're heavy on the live streams this week.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is I did another live stream last night with a friend about something totally different. But yeah, getting a lot of use out of this webcam here lately. It's fun, though. It's a lot of fun. Sit down, just talk about things you enjoy with people you enjoy.
Oh,
speaking of which, we had our August aquarium club meeting. Aquarium club meeting. I don't even know where that came from. Fish club meeting, ETAA meeting. It was a good time. We had a good group. I was telling Tanner before we got started. we ended up not having a camera to film last minute. And so I was like, oh, I'll get it. And of course, I didn't have a tripod or anything. So I jumped to the back of the room and held up my phone like this. And about 30 minutes into it, I was like, oh no, this is going to get painful. And it did. But it's all good. I've got to edit that and get that out for everyone.
Oh,
I
we've got
see Dave Broussard.
Broussard. How's it going, man? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. But yeah, I missed that meeting. I was in Knoxville, but wasn't able to make it. But I heard it was.
You're not supposed to tell people that.
Yeah. Oh, I was 5 hours. I was 5 hours now.
Yeah.
I unfortunately couldn't make it, but sounds like it was a good one.
It was. We had Bruce Yates on from gorgeousguppies.com, and something I didn't realize, he mostly doesn't sell from his website. He uses Aquabid. So you'll find him over there. And he told us a little bit about some other associations around live bears and guppies. It was really good. Really a lot of useful information. I'd like to, I've come to decide that I think I like guppies better than mollies. And I'm trying to get out of mollies and into guppies.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell on myself a little bit. I've been a little, I guess, what would the word be? Almost not elitist, but a snobby about guppies.
Right.
At first, I was like, oh, they're just a guppy type.
Everybody has them.
Everybody has them. But as some of you may know, I got some.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy them. They're fun fish. They're really they come up to you. They're fun fish, but Bruce Yates definitely does have he has some gorgeous guppies.
Yeah. And it's true. They are fun. And yeah, mollies are difficult. I will say that. I mean, if someone were getting into, go ahead.
Oh, I would say mollies are kind of buttholes.
They are. We had only one in a tank one time. Early on, and that's why we ended up with more, because she just picked on everything else in that tank, bullied everything. And Kane said, here, let's put it up. I'm gonna put it up here, Kane. Keeper Kane. Everyone wants to skip out on guppies because they're so common, but they're so common because they're awesome. And that is true. I found that to be true. Awesome. And I probably did the same thing. I saw guppies in the first store that I went to and walked right past them. And I thought the platies and mollies were cooler. I really wish we'd gotten into platies instead of mollies. I feel like, I don't know why, mollies actually are cooler than platies, but mollies they're a little more difficult to keep, I feel. It's a little more difficult to keep them healthy. I don't know why that is.
I actually like platies a little bit. They're probably one of my favorite live bears, just because that's what I started with.
Okay.
I had a 55-gallon tank full of platies, just all different sorts, and they were awesome. But yeah, I haven't kept mollies much, but the ones I've kept, I haven't. They've kind of just been jerks to everybody. I'm like, calm down, leave everybody alone.
Yeah. The Zen Ginger, thank you for getting Rico Stan and Chattanooga Ed's links in the chat. I appreciate that. I'm sure everyone in here knows those channels. I've seen you all in their live streams, but thank you so that we have them in there. And but yeah, guppies are great. I'm enjoying guppies. I've got the Inler guppy hybrids outside, and I love them. Planning on probably next month moving them inside. Going to pull out that old 29 tall and put it on a stand. I got to build a stand for it.
Oh, so another tank's getting added. There we go. It's happening.
Yeah, we love those. They're guppy Inlers, I believe, and but I don't want to put them in the tank with the superior red albinos. Maybe I put the superior red albinos in the 25 so that I can get them breeding. And then maybe the guppies go in the 75, or the guppy Inlers go in the 75.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, I might do that. I've actually pulled one of the females because I've not been able to keep any of the fry, and I know they've dropped fry. I think the mollies have just caught all of them and gotten them. It's funny, molly fry survive, but I found one guppy fry, and I went and ran to get a net, and it was down next to the substrate, and he was tiny, and I never could find him. He probably got ate by a Cory, but
Yeah,
I can't find him.
I may be wrong, but I do think the mollies are going to have larger fry, so
Could
that's
be.
probably why they survive. Because I know the guppies that I've got, I mean, the fry are they're little specks when they first come out.
Yeah, so I moved the one that looks like she's carrying right now. I moved her over to the 10 with the Corridora fry. I figure they have a better chance in there than they do in the 75 with all the mollies everywhere. I'm ready to get rid of mollies again. I need to get rid of a bunch of them.
Speaking of Cory fry, I have 3 more batches.
Yeah.
Maybe need to stop pulling eggs because I had
it's hard.
Last weekend in the 40. I had I'm not sure which ones they are, but it could be my Venezuelans that I got at the aquarium.
Oh, that would be cool.
The club swap.
Yeah.
So those all hatched out over the weekend. They're still, I put them in a fry tank, and then I think I sent you a picture this evening. I get home,
You did?
I see a leaf on a crypt full of eggs, and I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So I pulled that, and it's in a separate box, and I'm like, maybe I have too many. But who can have too many Corys?
So I had 3. I had 3 in the 10 before I pulled the last set of eggs. And those eggs I pulled, there was somewhere between 25 and 30. I don't know exactly. It was I don't remember. I was greater than 25. And I've only lost a few. I did pull one out a couple of weeks ago, one that had didn't make it. But I've got the best I can count. There's 28 in there now. So I've kept most of those fry. Now I am still doing like 2 or 3 water changes a week, and they are getting fed 3, most of the time 3 times a day, sometimes 2, but most of the time 3. Let's see. I saw the Zen Ginger said, I just got dark dragon guppies, and I love them. They're so pretty, and they aren't even full grown yet. I've not seen those.
I have not seen those. I'm looking them up real quick. Interesting. They're very pretty.
Let's see. Ooh, yes, they are.
Wow. Yeah, those are very, very nice.
Oh, this is a super dragon. So dark. I'm guessing it's got more of the black spots.
That's what I'm not sure if the ones I looked up are the true dark dragons, but they're dark with some coloration. I almost looks like dark with metallic flecks.
Let's see here. I can add
That's
a screen.
very cool. Hopefully those will grow up and look great for you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, those will be great. We've got Keeper Zen Ginger. I think they must be some random newer strain of the month. Even the ones online don't all look the same, but mine are the dark males with huge finish, and the colors are like flames. That's what I saw. Yep, that's what I was looking at. Dave wants to know if you have ever bred Cory pandas.
I have not. I actually have not kept panda Corys not because I haven't wanted to, because I have not ever found any that look healthy enough to buy near me.
Yeah. So if you're interested in Cory pandas, I can tell you a place to get some. I have not bred Cory pandas, but I have a Cory panda fry. It came in the egg came in on a plant from Curtis, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to raise this sucker, and I did.
But pandas are cool. I don't think I have any room. I probably have 10 or probably about 8 or so different species or different types of Corys right now. So I unfortunately can't really add any more at the moment. But I would like to eventually. I heard they can be a little more finicky to breed than the I'm going to butcher it, but the Aeneas Corys, like the bronze, the emeralds, the albinos. Right. I think those are kind of the easiest to get
that's what I've heard.
Spawn. But we should probably move towards the topic of this evening's stream. We're about 23 minutes in.
Oh, that's all right. This is fun. Yeah, we will. The Zen Ginger says they're so iridescent too. The males are almost solid black except some color mixes on their fins. Dave's got some cribs.
Yeah. Dave has. He's got some cribs. I've seen some of the fry that you've posted photos of. That's a cool. That tank is very cool. I've got some cribs too, and unfortunately, the first batch of fry I had, I kind of left them with the parents, and it didn't pan out.
I remember you talking about that.
I've got a couple left, but they're already like moving into another cave.
Yeah. Keeper Kane says those Venezuelas are awesome. I need to add some of those to my collection. They are awesome. I love those. First time I saw them, I was like, oh man, I've already got
really
too many
happy
Corys.
with them. I'm hoping I'm in the process of planning a 120 gallon, and I think those Venezuelans are going to move into there and be the only Corys in there.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice.
Hopefully get some quite a few.
What substrate are you going to put in that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was finished. Substrate. I'm going to do my normal kind of aqua soil.
Something lighter though, so that I'm just thinking they're black so that they'll stand out a little bit.
I normally use like the pool filter sand, and it's most of the time it's kind of a lighter, almost tan color.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing carpet or anything, so they should stand out really well.
Yeah. That'd be good. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Are you going to chronicle that?
I am.
That'll be cool.
Right now, the only holdup is we're building a stand more than likely, so that's kind of been. There's some. You
were talking about that last week.
It's going to be in my office or my work. It's going to be at my work where the club's going to meet eventually. So we kind of want it to look, clean and professional, I guess. But a lot of my time has been spent planning this tank, so I hope it looks really good.
That's good. It will. It'll look good. I've seen the tanks you've put together. Stephen P is here. Hello, Stephen P.
How's it going, Stephen? But I'm
the 75.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say the 75 is still growing in. I'm past due on some root tabs. I'm going to have to just start feeding those crypts like crazy to get them back. I see New Local Austin in the chat as well. Hello, New Local Austin. All right.
Yeah.
Before I interrupted you.
Big tank. I was going to say that tank's going to be full of crypts.
Yes.
I've got probably 30 or 40 crypts I'm planning on putting in there. And then I've got a bunch of the Cryptospiralis, the real tall crypt. I'm going to do that in the background and hopefully get it kind of, waving around.
Yeah, I've got one of those that I got from the Garden of Eden at Aquaticon, and it's growing. It's not spreading yet, but it's growing. It's saying, "Give me more root tabs. Feed me, feed me." Larry D's Chillhead Aquatics is here. Hello.
Yes, and we've got Vinoski, Fishkoto, Vinoski.
I missed that one.
I think. It was right before Larry D. And then we've also got Victoria Lee Creates and MedCow. Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, the Zen Ginger says, I see Killer Kitty 08. Victoria Lee Creates. The Zen Ginger said that she sent everyone over from Rico's stream. I guess Rico was just wrapping up. That's why he didn't answer me, I'm sure. Wow, we jumped up in number of people in the chat, and we're just about to start on the topic. So that's perfect timing. Silver Creek
That is
Aquarius,
perfect.
hey again.
Hope y'all are doing well this Tuesday evening.
Surf City Cichlids. Surf City, it's funny. I'll end up in a live stream and somebody will go to say hi to me and they say Surf City. I'm like, nope, I'm not Surf City. I look for you in the chat to see if they're talking to you or me. I'm like, oh, must be me. Regina Phalanges, Pivot. MedCow74 is
Aquatics. Here. Man, we're getting a big influx of people.
Yeah, Rico had them all. I think Rico had a Mexicali on for a spotlight, I believe.
Oh, awesome.
Victoria Lee says, I just subscribed. Thank you. Thank you for that subscription.
Yeah, I followed Mexicali on Instagram, and they keep some really cool stuff. Have some great looking tanks.
Yeah. That's it. It's the S City. But yeah, it happens. All right, so we're going to talk filtration, and this is a diversion from our favorite series, because up till now we've done just favorites, and this is going to be a little bit different. We will probably, if we have time, talk about our favorites, but we're going to begin by just talking about how to filter an aquarium. Figured it'd be Tanner and I were talking about it, and I asked Tanner, I was like, what are some things you'd like to talk about? He spit out a few, and I was like, okay, let's go with that one.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about filtration a little bit. I know when I first got into the hobby and I was at a store, favorite filters, Select Pet. John, we will probably talk about favorite filters.
We have to.
But, I picked up, the most common one, right? The hang on the back, and went with that and used it for years. And it was great until I got a bigger tank and it wouldn't fit on it. I needed to either go with the larger style filter to go on the 75 or change the style of filter. And that's what I did. I changed the style and I love it. So we'll talk about that.
Keeper Kane is sponge game. He is very out. We know that Kane likes his sponge filters. And I must say I like them too.
Yeah, it is true. All right, here we go. We will start with hang on back filters. Like I said, that's probably the one most people think of when they think of an aquarium. You're just your standard. You got everything outside of the tank. You've got, you've got a way to pull the water into this, and then it goes through your various media. Some of them, of course, have your brand filtration, right, where they try to get you to buy their filter every few months. And that's not good. If you listen to this and you do that, it's setting you back. Don't keep doing that stuff. Just put you some sponge in there. That's what I do. And I know I use the Aqua Clear. That's the one that I grabbed when I decided to upgrade my my filter. Sorry, I thought I had a response there about something. That was important for the stream. But yeah, so I went with the Aqua Clear and I loved it, except, now I'll say this, I loved it while I lived where I lived because I was on the hospital's power grid and I never lost power. So I didn't have to worry about it. But when I moved and I no longer had that luxury and my power would go off regularly, the Aqua Clear specifically became a problem because the motor is outside of the tank. And anytime the power gets shut off, you have to prime this filter to get it going again. And that is my biggest complaint with this filter. Otherwise, it's perfect because you can put whatever media you want in it. And I know everyone likes the, what's the new one that everybody's into? It's black and it's got blue on it.
The Tidal?
The Tidal. Yeah, the Tidal. The Tidal has the motor inside, right? So that it can self-prime?
I believe
or it has a way to self-prime.
To be quite honest, I started with Aqua Clear filter just like you did, and I have moved away from hang-on back filters.
Yes.
They're good. They're not bad, but I don't think they're the most efficient way to filter your tank. Just because if you sit and watch a hang-on back filter, a lot of the flow goes over the sponge or over the top half of the sponge versus going through the entire part of the media. But before we get like too far into filtration wise, and while Mitch has stepped away, I want to talk about the three main types of filtration. You've got your mechanical, your biological, and your chemical. Mechanical and biological are probably the two main types of filtration that everyone talks about. And each one of these filters we're going to show does mechanical and biological in some capacity. Chemical is going to be where you add in, your resin, purigen, some type of chemical absorbent or additive. And I mainly do planted aquariums, so for the most part, I don't do any chemical filtration because a lot of it will pull out the nutrients in the water column, which I normally add for the plants. But so the hang-on back filters are great, except for, like Mitch said, the priming. That drove me nuts whenever I'd come home, power maybe flipped out, storm happened, and I'd hear that grinding noise.
For sure.
And you're just like, crap, the filter's been off all day. And another reason I'm not the biggest fan of hang-on backs is what some people have said in the chat as well, is for fry or smaller fish or shrimp. Unless you have a little sponge over the intake, it can be a problem. But we've got Mitch
when I got cherry shrimp, I got a pre-filter for my hang on the backs so that I wouldn't suck up all the little cherry shrimp, but also to provide a place for it to collect stuff that they would be able to eat off of. And so I've ran pre-filters since pretty early on, but I bought the ones from Amazon that are real fine. So it would constantly just like suction up and I'd have to take that off and clean it most often. And so when I found Aquarium Co-op's coarse pre-filters, I was on board with that. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, coarse pre-filter is almost a necessity unless you're cleaning that pre-filter every day.
Yeah. Oh, and that's about how it was. It really got bad a lot of times. I'd come in and just see it. It was like there's nothing going through that. that motor is really pulling right now. I see Chattanooga Ed is in the chat, as well as Chris's Aqua Zone. And it jumped on me. Gotta love that.
It did.
Garcia
Aquatics. Mexicali Fish Keeper's in here now. How you doing?
Hey, Mexicali. Looking forward to going back and watching that replay with Rico.
Yeah, definitely.
Crown Tail Half Moon is here as well. All right, so back to the topic. Hang on back filters. You said you were done with them. I still have mine in case I need them. I've got I guess it's a 50, a 30, and a 20. I think that's what I have. I have 3 of them, I believe.
Yeah, I've still got all of mine in a.
They're not on anything right now.
Every fish keeper has their big tote of old equipment. Yeah. I'm sure we're all guilty of that. Some of us may have several. Looking at you, John, probably.
Yeah, and I know the question that a lot of people ask. I don't think you covered this. I still had you in my ear while I was chasing down the dog to get the bowl that he was running across the room with, making all the racket. With carbon, a lot of people will ask about running carbon. Is that what you were talking about when you were talking about the ferts?
Yeah,
did you mention carbon in that?
I did not mention carbon. I forgot to mention that
because they come with every filter.
Yeah, if you're doing a planted aquarium, if you have to dose any medication, I personally would not run carbon because it's a super absorbive material, and you'll just be basically wasting your ferts or medication.
Yeah, and it is good to keep though in case you need to use a medication in your tank and they need to remove it. So
Yeah.
I keep it. I'm sure it's got a shelf life, but I never open the plastic bag. So hoping that that shelf life is like 15 years because that's how long I've had stuff.
Oh yeah, as long as it doesn't get crushed, it's pretty much. I mean, even
Yeah.
when it gets crushed, it can still be used.
Regina Phalange says, I have a boneyard of aqua clears that failed. I'm not kidding. And yeah, the propeller in those, the motor will often go out on, and I think it's because they don't self prime and then they sit and run dry for a while. I
Yeah,
think
you'll
it
fill
burns them
them.
up.
It'll get real hot and just burn up. I've had it. I've had the I don't what's the small for like a 10-gallon tank, and I've had up
Yeah.
to the 120 I think is a model, and they all kind of have that same issue. And
Yep.
that's not to say it's just a we're using aqua clear because that's what we've used. I've used other
Yep.
hang on backs, and they all unless the motor is in the or the impeller is in the tank, they aren't going to self prime. Um, and that's a common issue with hang on backs, which is just something I don't want to typically deal with.
Yeah. And I did like that it was clear. With the aqua clear specifically, I really liked that it didn't stand out. Although I will say that my 50, the top began to rattle at one point, and I had to kind of work on that to get it to stop. And I think I've heard people talk about that too. So I think that's it for hang on backs. Yeah, you want to move to the next one?
I think so. Yeah.
The next one's a big one, and I think we're going to have a lot of fans.
Yeah.
So I put these three on the same slide because to me, they're all very similar. So let's start on the left side with the sponge filters. And yes, so when I picked these out, I picked out the ones I was either most familiar with or I had at least seen sometime. And so I use Aquarium Co-op sponge filters. I love the coarse sponge. I love that I don't have to clean it out every week. I love that as it collects stuff, it actually becomes a better filter. And then my cherry shrimp are all over it. I think it does a great job. I do trust it. And I mean, I think I could run my 75 off that large one. I really do. Um, yeah, they're great and they're cheap. The
Yes.
one thing you have to calculate when you're thinking about using a sponge filter is that you do have to be run an air stone. So you do need an air pump. And I think that sometimes we say that sponge filters are cheap, but we don't think, oh yeah, but you also have to buy a air pump. However, air pumps also pretty cheap. I think the last one I got, I got one of the large Tetra whispers in my area. I can't remember which size it is, but it's the double. It's the 2-port. I got it for like $20 at PetSmart.
Yeah. Yeah. Sponge filters are probably one of my favorite, more versatile ways to filter a tank, just because they're gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Shrimp, fry, anything is going to be fine, and they also just provide a massive surface area. Especially compared to a hang on back. I honestly think they provide more biological capacity, which in a tank, that's really what you want. The main, in my opinion, the main way you want to filter your tank is biologically and providing surface area for those uh, beneficial bacteria, your nitrosomas and your nitrobacters, just
Yeah.
to populate. And plus, like Mitch said, they're economical. You
Mm-hmm.
can instead of it's so easy to pop down to a store or order one online, and for $30 you can filter a 75-gallon tank pretty much.
Yep.
It's just a great option. The one downside I will say is they don't offer a ton of surface agitation or flow through a tank. Um, so that maybe if you want something with higher flow, you'll have to go with something different.
Yeah. Um, Although you can get one cranking with the right air pump and air stone. I do like they're no longer called never clog air stones, and I know personally why. Because I burn up. Like I said, I had to go get a air pump. I burnt one up because I took it on face value. The name's never clog. That thing's never going to clog. Why would I mess with it? It did clog, and it did burn up a motor, an air pump. But it's real easy now that I know that I have to do it, and that's been a little while. But now that I know, I just take it off and loosen it a little bit, shake it around in the water, and that's all it takes. It's ready to go again. But they have that felt pad. Have you run one?
Ran what?
It used to be called the Never Clog Airstone, but they've renamed it.
No, the sponge
Zis.
filters.
I believe it's a Zis.
Okay, the sponge filters that I have don't require air stones.
Okay. Yeah.
They're just basically you hook the air tubing into the top of the sponge filter. So
Okay.
I can't say that I've ran into that. I don't think I have a single air stone. Nope.
Okay.
I have one or two. I take that back.
So talking about surface agitation with my setup, I get quite a bit, and the reason why is one, I've got a pretty good size pump on it for what I'm running with a couple of air stones, and then sorry, the dog's trying to get into something now. Just a moment. Uno moment. All right, he's going to behave now. He said so. But what I have the Zis Airstone in it, and it's got a felt pad. So when you can tighten it or loosen it and kind of adjust the size of your bubbles. And of course, if you go too tight, you really got to keep it clean, because if you go too tight, you got to think you've compressed all those pores. And so the air coming out can get trapped if you're not keeping it clean. But if you find it somewhere in the middle, I like to get mine just snug and then back off just not even a quarter turn. And that's where I run mine. And I get a pretty good flow out of those. Now, the other thing you can do with a sponge filter is instead of running air, you can put a power head on it and run it that way as well. And you're going to get a lot more flow and create some flow in your tank as it comes out. And then depending on what type of power head you have, you can direct that flow around your tank. So that's a good way to use one of these to filter a larger aquarium. I've thought about doing that, especially when I was trying out DIY CO2 and trying to get those bubbles flowing around. I thought about putting one on my sponge filter. Another thing that you can do with the co-op sponge filters, I don't know if you can do that with all of these. I've got a picture of another brand sponge filter here as well. But with the co-op sponge filters, they're stackable. So one thing I like about them is I was able to stack a sponge filter on my sponge filter, not take up any more space because it's just vertical, right? Put it behind some Vallisneria or some Amazon swords, and you don't see it. It's nice. But then I can take that top one off after a few weeks or months and put it in another aquarium or put it in the pond, which is what I did. And I had an instant cycled pond because I'd been running that sponge filter for a long time. So that's another plus to these. That's what I love them. I'm not going to say that they're my favorite yet, but they're one of my favorites.
I think for a couple different reasons, like economics, they're cheap, they're hard. There's not many moving parts on them that can fail. That's one thing I like. And another thing, like John said in the chat earlier, he's using one electric pump to run his fish room, pretty much.
Yes.
However many tanks. That's one thing that's a huge plus with sponge filters is you'll see people running entire fish rooms, 100, 200 tanks, all on sponge filters from one air pump, which is, I know Kane has I believe one of the piston air pumps, which can put out quite a bit of air, and he's running most of his tanks off of that.
Yeah, it's great. If you got a large room and you can just get one of those, and run the air all around the room, it's the perfect solution.
Definitely. And
I saw Lefty. I was just going to say, I saw Lefty 3213A in the chat. Hello, Lefty.
And then Select Pet saying, do bigger or smaller bubbles create more water flow?
It's debatable. I've heard both.
Yeah, because when you think if you have smaller bubbles, you'd have more bubbles, so maybe that creates more flow. But the larger bubbles would move more water per bubble.
Per bubble.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where either extreme you're losing flow. But if you were to dial it in perfectly, you'd get it. But then why bother? Just get it somewhere. Just get it somewhere in the middle. I really feel like.
Oh,
go ahead,
Mitch. Oh, yeah. I do know that if you have smaller bubbles, you will have a better oxygen transfer rate in the tank. They will disperse easier. So if you're really concerned about your dissolved oxygen levels in a tank, you have like a high oxygen fish, like one that comes from a stream, maybe smaller bubbles are the way to go.
Another great point from Select Pet. John says 1 electric plug runs 20 tanks for me right now. And that is a great point, because if you have a bunch of hang-on backs or canisters or whatever else you're running, you're going to need multiple plugs. But 1 plug will run however much you can get off your air pump. Regina Phalange says, I run sponge filters in all my tanks and even keep extra in my large tank just so that I have readily available seated sponges for emergencies or new setups. And that is absolutely why I love them too. Let's see. Chattanooga Ed's going for a Slurpee. And Regina Phalange says, Mitch, I love the Zis Air Stones. They are great. I recommend them. If you have a sponge filter that'll run an Air Stone, it'll make it even better. Let's see. Looking at the chat. Oh, the Zen Ginger says, complete guess. Little bubbles increase flow, but bigger bubbles increase turbulence at the top for more gas exchange, but no idea, honestly. And I thought that too. I was going to say that, but which I feel like that would be true, that a big bubble would create a larger disturbance at the surface and allow for more gas exchange. But at the same time, when I have those fine bubbles, that water is moving all over the place. So I don't know. It's probably, you know what, whichever one you like's better. If you want the big blah, 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 then you got to go with the big bubble, right? And just have that noise, that relaxing. I find it relaxing. Anytime that I've taken the Air Stone off mine and just, allowed it to go like that, I've been like, oh, I kind of like that. And then my wife says, you got to fix that because she can't take it.
Here's a little hypothesis, and this is stemming from Dave Broussard's last comment in the chat, saying a high concentration of fish aspirating CO2, a high concentration of dissolved oxygen is good. If you look at a CO2 diffuser, they are super fine bubbles because that imparts the most, CO2 into the water. Well, it doesn't move a lot of water. The CO2, CO2 diffuser doesn't move water. So I think the bigger bubbles might move more water. That's what I'm going with.
So with the sponge filter, though, counter argument, with the sponge filter, though, the bubbles are running through a lift tube creating suction, and that's where the flow comes from. So bigger bubbles or smaller bubbles are still going to create that uplift, even though the disturbance is different. So the flow, I still think, would be better somewhere in the middle.
I didn't think of that. That is, you know what? I concede that.
Yeah.
Mitch gets this one.
I don't know about that. But I saw Select Pet says it's time to do some experiments. So science experiments coming. And let's see. Regina Phalanges, here's a good segue. I have a couple of the corner box filters running. They're okay. Still prefer sponge filters. And that's why it's on the same slide here. We'll call it a slide. The box filter is pretty much, it's very similar to having a sponge filter, except that the materials that you use for your filtration can be different. When you have the box, you've got an enclosed case that you can put sponge in, you can put filter floss, you can also put some kind of plastic or bio ring or something else to create your various filtration, to use various filtration media, but you're still just using an air stone for filtration here. And of course, I don't know, it seems to me like, actually this might be easier to clean, because I would say the biggest downside to the sponge filter is having to get that bag underneath it and pull it out before fish poop goes everywhere, because then you've got a cloudy tank after you've cleaned your sponge filter. Whereas I would think this box filter would keep that contained. I've never used one, but I would think that would keep it contained. It also seems like it might stop up more quickly. Select Pet says not all sponge filters have lift tubes. Another pro for sponge filters in that there's so many different types.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, that's the thing with filtration. There's so many different ways to do it, and it really just depends on what goal you're trying to, accomplish. It's a fry tank, a display tank,
Yep.
you know.
Larry Dees says bigger bubbles cause faster evaporation. I've noticed. And Zen Ginger says big bubbles seem to kill duckweed faster, so maybe I'm biased to believe that. Maybe I do need to pull the air stones off for a while. I was scooping out duckweed last night while trying to watch Bob Steenfot. Let's see. Silver Creek says lots of smaller bubbles create more lift than big bubbles. Yes, there is a tuning to be done. I agree. And Dave says there is still dissolved oxygen from the bubbles before it bursts, and that's true. Although the bubbles go through pretty quick. Let's see. Everybody's talking about floating plants. Let's not get on floating plants. Regina Flange says box filters do work. That's why they are still around. I can see that. The first time I saw one was at the club. Somebody gave one away at the club. I think it was an aqua top. And it's not that was the first time I saw one, but it was the first time I saw one in person. I'll put it that way. I'd seen them online. But also with a box filter, I think of some of those DIY filters where people will use a little water bottle and stuff in there and create uplift with an air stone or even just a hose with an airline to it. You can create something similar that way as well. So you could kind of make your own box filters. I've seen that.
Yeah, definitely the 2-liter bottles full of biomedia. Very easy DIY way to filter a tank.
Yeah. MedCal74 says, even though I've seen so many pros use nothing but sponge filters, I was scared to try them, but I finally did in one tank. No problem, no surprises. I would agree with that. When I first tried sponge filters, I had the 75. And like I said earlier, I don't know if it was before the influx of everyone coming in, but I was running a hang on the back filter in my 29 tall when I got the 75 and realized that because I was just going to run all my aqua clears on the back of it for a while. None of them would fit on the rim. So I was stuck having to decide what I was going to do. I managed to I got the aqua clears on. I made it work for a few days, and I ordered the Aquarium Co-op sponge filters, which I'd been considering, and tried it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to run everything at once and see what happens. And before long, I took them off and was just running the sponge. I like them. I can't say much more about the box filters. In theory, it seems to be a good idea to me. There's more things to stop up and, to get gunk stuck on. But I don't know that. Well, yeah, it's got pads in it to do that mechanical filtration. So, have you ever ran one? Have you ever used one?
I have not. I've seen them used. I think the concept is neat and know it can work, but I just haven't. I don't like how they look. They take up too much room inside the tank. Sponge filter,
Yeah.
I think, is easier to hide. But I'm also partial to trying. I like to keep filtration. If it's not a fry tank, I try to keep filtration outside of the tank, just because I don't like seeing it.
All right, you warned me earlier that we were getting behind, and I've got us way behind. So let's try to move. Internal filters, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. The reason why it's on the same slide, if you take a power head and put it on a sponge filter, you have an internal filter. To me, it's basically the same thing, and that's why all these three are on the same slide. You ready to move?
Yeah.
All right, next one. Under gravel, not underground, under gravel filters. Saw this one in the chat already. People were bringing it up.
Yeah. So like
Select
Pet
Pet
said,
says,
and then Mexicali Fish Keeper, they said
yeah.
both of them, that's their favorite filter. So that's one I have not used. It's I know the tank that I got from my grandpa, that's what he had on it, and I was
Yeah.
able to hang on back. They're an old school filter. They work. They definitely work.
Yeah, I had one on a mini tank, like a little, and the only reason why I got this tank is I needed it to put fry in for a little while, and so I ran out to Walmart. Is the only place open because I was not the experienced fish keeper yet. I didn't have stuff, and so I ran, and I didn't even think I could put them in a tote or I could put, I got to have something, right? So I got one of these little aquariums, and it had an graver. I can't say it, an under gravel filter, and yeah, I think it worked. It worked well. I know some people say, and it depends on your substrate. I believe they can get stopped up and create problems, and I could see that happening. But the people that use them swear by them.
Yeah, and I know I think you can use those to try and build a plenum, which I think, or some type, try and build anoxic zones within your tank, which has definitely helped with nitrate reduction. But
Yeah.
or you could just use plants.
Yeah, Mexicali says, I don't recommend for cichlids. They like to move the substrate, which would make sense because you're pulling all the stuff into the substrate, which would be good for plants. But I don't know that I know a lot of people who have planted tanks who run these. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, ooh, that'd be great for a planted tank. But then, wait, the roots, seems like that would be a problem in a planted tank. But cichlids would also be a problem because they're constantly churning up the substrate. And Dave says, take one out of the tank, see how much poop gathers under it. And that's true. And John says, under gravels get a bad rap because most people don't know how to use or clean it correctly. Select Pet, we need that video.
Yeah.
Do you already have it? You probably already have it. You probably already have it. That would be a great video.
Mexicali says that's how they run their plenum. Yeah, I really like the plenum as a concept. I was joking about the plants, but plenums are. I think Mitch, we might need to do a live stream on plenums and nitrate reduction.
I'm going to have to look it up first. What's a plenum?
It's popularized. I can't remember the guy's name. He's on YouTube, but it's essentially trying to create an anoxic zone, a low oxygen part of the tank.
Is it the really deep substrate?
You can do it as a deep sand bed, or you can use an under gravel filter to have a slow flow through in the bottom. Sean's done it a couple times.
Father Fish. That's the guy on YouTube that I think everybody talks about doing it.
It's and then Dr. Kevin Novak. I know he's a controversial figure in the community.
So Killer Kitty 0, it says, I don't understand how it works. What do you hook to the tubes? So these are uplift tubes, and the picture, it's kind of hard to see, but there's an air stone right here in this tube. And so you put this in the bottom of the tank, and then you put your substrate over top of it. The air stones are creating uplift, which is pulling all of everything down into the substrate. So the water goes into the substrate, then underneath this area that's created with all the grooves, and it just creates a cycle that's moving like this. And I see why people like it. I think it would be cool. But and I saw Mexicali Fish Keeper says, all my tanks are planted. So that answers my question.
And then also I learned something. So plenum means open space. Did not realize it meant that. That's good to know.
Yeah. John's saying that they do great with plants, and he's kept cichlids with them. All right, we need some videos.
A tank with one.
UGF is a plenum. Okay, Stillwater says. John's got you. Is that where you got it, or did you look it up?
I did. I got that from John. Plenum means open space. So
yeah, Ray Aquatics is in here. It says same thing, just slow down the flow. Okay. Well, I've not used one, so I can't speak to how well it does. I know that a lot of people online love them. I've heard people for years talk about them. Um, I don't see a lot in stores though. I don't know that I've seen one in my local stores. Skull Aquatic says plenums have been in salt water for years. All right, so I think undergravel filters are good. You just need to do some research. Canister filters. Canister filters. Canister filters definitely do a good job of cleaning your tank. A lot of people, Skull Aquatic says my Petco has them, and I can see that. I believe they were made. The picture that I had was is it a Pinplex, and that's a company that I've seen in some of the box stores. But the canister filters do a good job. They also allow you to go longer between cleanings if you need to. But the problem that I hear is that oftentimes we get, we kind of forget about them. And then you're like, was it April when I cleaned that thing, or was it January of last year? And then, it's a big deal to have to clean it. And sometimes I tell you, so on my 75, I run sponge filters. However, when I first set them up, the coarse sponge, which I love, and I realize the irony here, did not clean out the particulate in the water like I wanted. And so I was trying to come up with solutions, and I considered different things, but I came across a really cheap canister filter. And I thought, you know what? I can stack that thing full of sponges and put a little bit of filter floss in it and forget about that thing, and it will keep the water clear. And it does. I have a little Sun. It's, like I said, it's a cheap canister filter. It's not made to filter my tank. That's not why I have it. It probably does, though. Honestly, with all the sponge I have in it, it probably would. But yeah, canister filters are good. They are a hassle. When I have to clean that thing, it is a pain to get out from under the tank and then to take it out and to clean it off and to clean everything, scrub everything off, clean out all of the sponge pads, swap out the filter floss. But that's why I have it. I have it to catch that stuff.
Yeah, I really like
about
the canister filters. I have that on my 55 and a couple other tanks. One thing I love about them is the size. You can just pack a lot of media in them. Whether I like to go light on mechanical, high on biological, just to get a ton of surface area in the canister filter. They have good flow through, good flow put. They can do a good bit of flow onto the tank. One issue that you may have is with they don't really clean the surface of the water, and the nice thing is you can get a surface skimmer that attaches into the onto the outflow or the output of the filter. But I'm a big fan of canister filters, but like Mitch said, and some other people in the chat, they are a pain to clean.
Yeah.
It's just there's no way around it. But they do offer a ton of room for media, which I really like.
And you get much like when we were talking about the hang on the backs, when we were talking about the ones that allow you to customize your media, you get that here too. Most of them come with media, but you don't necessarily have to just run that. Like with mine, it came with specific sponge sizes, but I changed out for what I wanted because I wasn't really looking for it to use those fine sponges. That scared me to death. That sponge is just nuts. I can imagine I needed to clean that weekly because it was the same. It seemed like the same density as the pre-filter sponge that I had used previously. So I thought, this thing could definitely cause an issue and make this canister filter leak. And that's my biggest fear. But I like them. You just got to keep up with them. And they are a hassle, I think, to clean. I am comfortable with just running my sponge filters in the 75. And Also, another plus is a lot of them will have UV filters built into them. And not a lot of them, but some of them. And some of them you can even put a heater in them. So you don't have to have your heaters in your tank. You can heat the water as it goes through. And then mine has a UV sterilizer, so I'm able to turn that on. And so that's a plus for it as well. But, you can put a UV sterilizer in line with any filter, right? You can, heaters don't take up that much space and they're not that ugly. Most of them hide pretty good. But
I recently picked up one of the Owaze, I think it's the Biomaster 350 with the built-in heater. It's a workhorse.
Yeah.
I like it. I will say, and this is just a general thing with a lot of different pump, any filter manufacturer, they're going to fib on the flow that these things can get because they do it under ideal conditions. You're not going to get the 650 gallons per hour that it's rated at. It's going to be lower than that. So
that's when you first start it, and maybe with nothing in it.
Nothing in it, no media, perfect. But and John says seems people are either team Canister or team Sump, and the two rarely cross.
Yeah,
I like both of them.
Yeah,
y'all know if I like Sumps, but also Canisters hold their place just as well. I think they're easier than a Sump, certainly.
Yeah. Vibe says Canister filters have a schedule on paper, keep records. And that's true. I have to keep up with it. If I don't keep up with it, I just end up cleaning it because I'm like, oh man, I don't know when I cleaned it last. And, I know a lot of people who say they can go a year. I've never let mine go anywhere near that length. And it's always been disgusting in there. So I'm impressed if anything will go that long. I don't know how useful it is at that point, but Regina Flange says, I have 2 canisters. They work, but a PITA to service. Yeah, they're a pain to service.
Yep.
All right. Select Pet says, I'm not a fan of coarse sponge either. From my view, they do poor job filtering, then create more ammonia by allowing stuff to get trapped and break down in the coarse sponge. Just my preference. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, but if you're cleaning it regularly, it should be the same, right? As a finer sponge. It's just going to get trapped on the outside.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
in my opinion, if it's gonna get trapped if it's something that's larger and decaying in the tank, it's going to decay anywhere within the tank. Is my thoughts,
Yeah.
But different. I do agree though that you can get larger particulates trapped and they just can kind of clog easier, or not really easier, but just kind of run into some issues with flow.
With the course, when you first put it in, it's not going to catch a lot, and it really takes a while for it to build up. But once it starts to build up, its pores get smaller, a little bit smaller, and so there's this fine line between knowing when it's time to clean it and when to just let it run. And but I definitely understand that. I'm not a fan of the fine. I feel like it fills up too quick and has to be cleaned more regularly. And the course, there's something to be said. I don't know. The surface area, I've seen both arguments for which has more surface area when they're running well. And I don't know. I like the course. It's what I've ran. But I know a lot of people who run the fine. Susan for SLC Aquatics is here. Hello, Susan. Glad you made it. It's good to see you. All right. I've caught up with where you were. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Canisters are an easy way to drain a tank for a water change. See, sometimes even if you don't mean to, and that's true. Mine does not have that feature. I would create a mess if I tried to do that for sure. But yeah, like I said, my biggest fear is that thing failing. So I take care of it. I have extra gaskets for that Sun because I know that's like the biggest problem people have had with it. I purchased like a big thing of gaskets that I just have put back. And I do put silicone grease on the gasket every single time I clean it. So when I get it clean, I dry it off. I hit it with that silicone grease and put it back together. trying to make sure that seal is nice and tight. Knock on wood's never happened to me, but I have heard it. That's true. I have heard it. Regina Flange says, I have an oversized Pandamax canister for my koi. It's a beast. Keeps my koi happy, and it has a UV. Susan says she's never used a canister filter. Yeah, drilling a tank. I'm not ready for that.
I've drilled a couple, and every time it always makes me so nervous.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's once you do it a couple times, it's not bad. But the first time I was like, oh, Lord, we're drilling glass.
Yeah. Dave says pre-filter the intake. Yes, I have a large pre-filter sponge on the intake for my canister filter. And that gets cleaned, way more often than anything else because it does collect a lot. And you know what? The cherry shrimp all over it. They love it. Keeper Kane says I clean my canister about 2 to 3 times a year and they're always caked. Yeah, that's my experience too.
That's about how I do it. When flow starts slowing down, I'm like, all right, time for a clean.
Yep. Medcal says I've had canisters leak, but they leak as soon as I put it back together, so I take care of it right away. And yeah, I think I've heard that too. Most people who have a leak, it's right after they've done something with the canisters. So again, that's why I try to check mine all over before I put it back together and hit it with that silicone grease. It is your friend. Anything else canister filters? Because we're way over.
Nope, nothing on canisters.
Right. This one's all you, my friend. I know nothing. Sump filters.
So I love my sumps. Also love a canister, but a sump is probably, if you have the space available and are able to do it, I think a sump is probably the best way to go, just because they are so customizable. You can do basically anything you want. I'm growing plants in it. I've got my the whole section to the right of the plants is all filter media. I've got bags of in a back corner of the sump. I've got bags of the ceramic bio media. You can just basically, anything you want to do with the sump. My heater's down in the sump. My CO2 runs into the sump. All of the equipment's out of the tank, and they can be intimidating, just because one thing you have to look out for is, just mark the water line of where it needs to be filled up to, and don't fill it up more than that, because if power goes out, tank is going to drain down. You can overflow. I've done it when I first got a sump, but it's pretty quick and easy to learn how to do it. And I just think, like Pet says, sump is king. But
and we talked about this before. I know a lot of people are worried about it overflowing, and from what I understand, I don't completely understand the concept because I've not actually seen one and looked at how it's done. But I understand there's safeguards to keep that from happening. Like you said, only fill it up where it's supposed to be, and then if the power goes out, that's where it's going to settle.
Yeah, and then one other thing that's really nice is this sump is on a 40-gallon tank. It's about a 20, maybe 30-gallon sump. I haven't measured it, but I made a 40-gallon, a 50-gallon, and you don't even see that extra water, or it just makes it. They're great for display tanks because you can add a lot of water volume to a tank, and you don't see it. If you want to have you have a specific area you want to fill, and stack the tanks, the sump below, and it adds more water volume. That's the best thing in an aquarium. More volume is better.
Absolutely. You can drastically increase the volume of your system with a sump. And then, like you said, you've got places to put stuff, like you've got the light on here with those plants. The plants only add more filtration. You have so much space for filtration. I get it. I see why it's a nice thing. I don't know if a sump would be overkill for the 75 or not, but I would hate to lose the space under the 75.
One thing that's nice about the Sump too is if you have, some small, like I grow fry out in my Sump. There's shrimp in my Sump, just happy as can be. Um, and if you've got a fish that's getting a little beat up, I wouldn't put a sick fish in your Sump because it's could spread the illness to the rest of the tank. But definitely down, like it's got an injured fin or something, plop it down in the Sump, let it heal up. It'll it's basically an extra tank. It's tying two tanks together essentially.
Ed's back. He said he got a slushie. We all need to know what flavor he got.
That sounds good.
Let's see. Chattanooga Ed says that he must be enjoying the slushie. I have a song. I think he means sump. I have a sump. I need to hook up to 2 fish tanks. I've already drilled them. We were just talking about that. I don't know if you heard. We were saying that that's the scary part. So you've already done the scary part. More people are asking, what's the flavor? Oh, here we go. It is, hi, Susan, I got tiger blood. Nice. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, like John says, water change in Sump too. I top off the Sump. I don't top off the display tank or, the display above.
Yeah. So Killer Kitty asks, what you storing under that your 75? Everything ends up on top of a shelf. I only have a canister and pump under mine. So I do have the canister on one side, and that's probably the majority of it. I have the DIY CO2 under there still. It's not running currently, but it's there. And, eventually I'd like to have CO2 in it under there. And then the majority of the stuff that I use is in a big tub on the right-hand side. The stuff that I use so that it's there. But the other stuff, the other stuff is, of course, in the garage. So, yeah. Like I said, I just hate to lose the space. I don't have a lot of space, so I don't have a lot of tanks. All right. That was... Hold on. Yes, that was it. That was the last one we were going to cover. We were going to ask if there were any more, but we're like 20 minutes over at this point, getting close to it. So thank you everyone in the chat for the conversation. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate and value all of your opinions. I know with filtration, everybody's got a team Sponge Filter, and Team Sump, I'm guessing.
Team Canister / Sump, but
okay.
Like John says, Sump is king.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, no, I definitely, we really appreciate y'all's input, and we apologize if we missed your comment.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of great ones. We couldn't touch on everything, but thank y'all for joining.
Yeah. So hopefully I plan on having a video out on Thursday. So hopefully I get that out. Be on the lookout for that. Call me on it if it's not out. I'm giving you permission. Call me on it. Friday night, 8 p.m. Oh, Ed's here. Ed, is this fried fish, is it on your channel or Rico Stands? It's one or the other. I'll be on there talking about Scruffy City Aquatics, be talking about this channel. And then on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, these are all Eastern time, I'll be on Scotty the Fish Freaks channel talking about aquarium clubs. So I'll be in those 2 spots if you'd like to hear me ramble on some more. I don't know why you would, but if you would, I'll have some excellent people with me that I'm looking forward to talking to. And yeah, I just don't know Friday which channel it's on. I looked through all the messages that I had, and I don't see. Kane says hashtag Sponge Gang. Rico's. Chattanooga Ed says it's on Rico's channel. All right, good. All right, everyone. That's going to be it. Till next time, stay scruffy.